Good afternoon, this is Rachel with Infused Meadows. Let's make some garlic knots. I'm going to add to the bowl of my stand mixer, stainless steel. Now this is cold, so because I don't want it bringing everything down even cooler, I'm starting with hot water. I have 3/4 a cup of hot water. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to let this sit. I'm going to temperature probe it. So I started out with 129 degrees and we're already down to 127. But this will also, while the water's cooling, it's going to warm my bowl up just a little, which is what I want. So that, you know, everything comes together nicely. So what I'm doing is I'm looking for about 110 degrees Fahrenheit. Okay, that's just, you don't want to go too hot. If you go too hot, you'll kill your yeast. And that means you're not going to get the bread that you're planning to get. Okay. Hopefully that helps. Alright, so while we're doing this, I'll go ahead and tell you, I have bread flour out. We're going to use anywhere between 2 to 2 1/3 a cup. So what I'll do is I'll start with 2 cups of flour, and then if I need the extra 1/3 cup, I'll add it. If I don't, I won't add it. Okay, but at least that way I'll be prepared for just in case, because temperature, moisture, humidity, all this plays a role in dough making. In bread making when it comes to your dough. It just is what it is, okay? So, we're at 120. Okay, I use active dry yeast. So, I will be adding, once I get this down to 110, I will be adding into the water 1 teaspoon of sugar and 2 1/4 teaspoons of my active dry yeast. And then I'll whisk that up. I've got me one of these. I'll whisk that in really, really well. And then I'll let that rest. And that's called blooming your yeast. So what I will be looking for at that point is for a nice foam to create and set across the top of our liquid. And that tells you your yeast is alive and it's happy and ready to go. Okay, so past that, I will also be adding 2 teaspoons of garlic powder, a 1/2 teaspoon of parsley, and a 1/2 teaspoon of my onion powder. Plus, I'll be adding 1 teaspoon of salt. And we will be adding 2 tablespoons of olive oil. So that's going to be my garlic knots. So right now I'm just waiting on this to come down in temperature. We're at 115. And it's only taken almost 3 minutes. So here we are. Anyway, I'll get this down to temperature and we'll be back. Okay, so I'm down to 110. I'm going to add in 1 teaspoon of sugar. Because we don't want a sweet bread. Or at least I don't. Alright, we're also going to add in our 2 1/4 teaspoon of active dry yeast. Now, if you're using instant, you don't have to bloom it. Now, a lot of people still do because you still want to know, you know, if your yeast is alive, because it would be awful to get everything put together to then find out nothing's rising because your yeast is dead. But it's up to you. You know, you use the yeast that you like. Now, I'm going to whisk this in really, really well. I can already smell my yeast, so I'm pretty sure it should be just fine. Okay. Alright, I'm going to run my yeast back to the freezer and we'll be right back. Okay, so while that is blooming, I've already fluffed my flour. So all I do is I scoop from below, and I'm going to go in with 2 cups. And you notice I never pack my flour down. Now I know some people like take a spoon, scoop it in. I fluff it and I go from underneath. I am not digging in and packing that flour in. Okay, so just a helpful tip. Can promise you that, you know, when my mama was making bread, she may still, I don't know, I haven't seen her make bread in a while, but she didn't have scales in her kitchen, and her bread always turned out just fine. And she didn't, they weren't as picky, you know? Does that make sense? I hope that makes sense. All right. I already have my worktop in there cleaned up and basically ready to go. So, what I want to do now is get this back. I'm going to go ahead, where is it? I'm going to add my 1 teaspoon of salt. I'm going to add 2 teaspoons. Sorry. I don't want to disturb that too much. I want it to foam up for us. I'm going to go in with this. So, 1, 2. I did mention this is garlic knots, so if you're curious. Half a teaspoon. Wrong one. That's fine. I got this one out. So, because I already have the 4th out, I'm just going to do this twice. So, a half a teaspoon of onion powder. And a half teaspoon of parsley, if this will open. There it goes. So, still the 4th, so I'm going to do it twice. Now, all we want to do is we want to whisk this very well. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to move this, my olive oil, my 1/3 cup that's extra flour, and I'll get this when I come back. And then we'll be at the baking station that my husband built me. Okay, we'll be back. You should have this kind of foam on your active jar yeast, okay? We'll be back. Okay, we're back. So, I've got this on my machine. I'm going to go ahead and add in my 2 tablespoons of olive oil. Now we'll need more, so don't put that up yet. You'll need more. Alright, and now I'm going to add my flour. Well, my flour mixture. I'm using bread flour. You do not have to. You can use all-purpose. It's just if you're looking for, a little bit chewier bread, then you want to stick with the bread flour, okay? Because all-purpose, or plain, as some know it, will not give you that, nice chewy texture. Alright, so I'm going to start on low to get this nice and combined. Once it's nice and combined, I'm going to increase this speed to about 2 to 3. And I'm just going to stand in here and keep an eye on it and make sure that I see it all coming together. Once it comes together, I'll occasionally stop this and fill of it. And if it's too wet, I'll add more flour. If it's not, I'm going to leave it and let it go for about 5 to 6 minutes. Okay? We'll be back. So my dough has cleared the sides. I have not added any flour. I've not felt it yet, but the fact that it's cleared the sides tell me that I should be good to go. But when you do fill your dough, you want to feel tacky but not sticky. So that means that you should be able to tell that it feels wet, moist, whatever word you want to use there, but that it doesn't come off on your hands, okay? And that's what you're looking for. Now, if you find that, because of your weather, that your dough is too wet, then what you want to do is you want to spoon your flour in a little at a time. I start out with these, just your little spoons, and I just put 1 scoop in. I'll watch it, see that it starts to clear the sides, and at that point, I stop. Okay? So, we'll be back. Okay, so we've been kneading for about 5 minutes. Now, I did not add any extra flour this time because I guess the temperature is just right today. It happens. All right. Not a lot. So what we want to do is, or what I'm going to do, okay, bench scraper. I like these, especially for this kind of job, because they're silicone and they can really bend with my bowl. All right. Now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to pour in, we'll say, a tablespoon of oil. You want to nicely coat your bowl, okay? And then I am going to just shape this real quick. All I'm doing is pulling and pushing it into a bowl. That's it. You don't have to do this. I've seen some people just take it from, their machine and then just literally pour their oil in, and then they'll just roll it around and then cover it up. So you do what you want. I like to make sure I, try to get some tension on that dough, which helps a lot if you just drag it across your worktop. Okay. You can give it a couple of rolls if you want, and then just kind of press, fold, fold, fold. And then all you're going to do is just gently pull it, and that just helps to stretch that dough a little bit so that you don't end up with dough that won't stretch and it's going to fall apart the second you mess with it. So you're just going to spin your dough around in your oil, and then you want to flip that over. Make sure that all of your dough is nice and coated in that oil, because the last thing you want is your dough to dry out. And then all you got to do is cover this up, put it in a warm spot, and then just keep an eye on it until it has doubled in size. Now it always depends on your home. If your home is nice and warm, could take 45 minutes. If your home is cold, it could take you 2 hours. So you can avoid the wait time if you want by putting it in your oven with a light on, unless you have a proofer. I do not. But just know that when you do that and you rush that rise, you are risking a little bit of flavor, because as it sits and it develops and it increases in size, it also increases in flavor. So just keep that in mind. I'm going to go put this on top of my stovetop, and we're going to let this double in size, and we'll be back. So while my bread is rising, I'm going ahead and I've put 3 tablespoons of butter into this bowl, and it is unsalted. So I am going to add about 1/8, which is half of this 1/4 of salt to this. Okay. And then I've diced myself up very finely. 4 medium size, not large, just what I had was medium sized garlic. So I've diced that up. And the reason I'm doing them separate is because come time to brush all this on, I will melt the butter, and then I'll add this to the melted butter. But this way it's already prepped and ready to go. And to this I'm going to add a heaping teaspoon. So about 1.5 teaspoons of parsley. And then I want to add just a dash, literally about 1/8, so a pinch, of onion powder. And that's it. So I want you to know what I've got going here, and then we'll be back. We're back. Our dough has doubled in size. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to just, oh so gently, let's put that right there. Okay. Now, I'm going to cut this in half. If you want these to be precise, feel free to weigh them. I'm not. And then, okay. So I'm going to put the 2 small ones together. Now I have 7 what I would call decent size. You will have a little bit of oil on your work surface. It's fine. So what I like to do is I'm going to flatten this out. I'm going to roll it. Okay. And then I'm going to roll this again. And then I'm going to form a ball. And then from there, I'm going to set this right here. Now, if you do this right, your bottom will come together, and you can just take your hand and gradually drag it. You don't need flour for this, or you shouldn't, okay? And I'm going to try to do this as quickly as possible. You should see it come together. If you don't, feel free to grab it and just pinch and turn and pinch, and then you can do it in your hand, okay? All I'm doing is using my thumb and this as a guide. And that's it. And I'm going to set it right here. I'm going to do the rest of these. We'll be right back. Okay, once you have all of them rolled into nice tight balls, what you're going to do is what I do is I like to take my hand and I push down and roll back, okay, until it is bigger than my hand is wide. Once that happens, I come in with both hands and then I just start rolling it back and forth. And I start in the middle, gently pulling out, rolling back and forth to form a log, okay? So, get my log, and then all you're going to do, hopefully I can do this from the side, is you want to bring one piece through, like you're tying a knot, and then what I like to do is come across the top with one piece. I'm sorry, I'm making a mess out of this. With one piece, and then you're going to push that through and come through around with the other one, pinch those together on the back, and then there you go. And then make sure you leave them some space. So we're going to roll this out. This will likely be more than 20 minutes. We're going to hope that the YouTube and stuff will upload it. I know YouTube will. It's Facebook. Anywho. Alright, so this one I went just a little bit longer. Okay, same thing. We are going to bring these together and then push through a piece of dough. Okay, so we have our knot. And then one goes under while the other comes over. And I like to take that through so that I can pinch it together on that back side. And then if you... There you go. These will rise. Okay. So, I don't know how many you need to see me do. I'll do this one and then I'll do the rest on my own. So, I got 8 from this. This is a smallish recipe. So, if you have, you know, a whole bunch of people, then double, triple, whatever you need to do with this. And the reason I don't grab my dough, I mean, you can, you know, do this to try to help stretch it. That's fine. But the reason I don't just grab it and pull it is because I don't want to overstretch that dough. Right now, I'm gently working it, and it's acceptable for it. So, we're going to make our tie. This one's going to be a little bit bigger because I made my loops, or I made my rope bigger. We're going to come around, bring the other piece around, push it through, and then flip it over and pinch those two together so that they don't come undone. And then there you go. And as this, as it rises again, it'll fill all that in. It'll be very, very pretty. Okay, so I'm going to get these done and we'll be back. Okay, so I've gone ahead. I had a little bit of oil left in the bottom of my bowl, so I just used this and I rubbed some of that oil all over each one of these. And now I'm going to cover these up and I'm going to slide those into my oven with the light on for them to rise all over again. And at that point, we'll be back. It can take anywhere between 30 to 45 minutes depending on the area in which you have them resting. Okay, we'll be back. Okay, so I've gone ahead and pulled these out. They'll still be rising for a few minutes. I've got my oven preheating to 400 degrees Fahrenheit or 205 degrees Celsius. once my time, my oven chimes saying it's ready to go, I will put these in the oven and I'm going to bake them for about 13 to 14 minutes until you'll see that they're nice and golden. And then when I pull them, I'll go ahead and melt my butter, put my spices into that butter, mix that up, and then I'll brush that all over the top. Okay? I'll bring you back. I just wanted you to see real quick. Sometimes it happens. The two at the end, where I must not have pinched them good enough. And so these two have come out, but it's fine. They still look just fine. So I just wanted you to see that that does happen if you don't pinch them good enough, which I didn't. Obviously, I must have missed that pinch. So it happens, but hey, they'll still taste just as good as they would if they were pinched. So we'll be back. Okay, so I have my butter mixture ready to go. Now you can add basil if you'd like, or oregano, or whatever you like, as far as your garlic bread goes. I just prefer parsley. But as you can see, I have this nice and mixed up. And so my bread has about 1.5 minutes left on it, at which point I will pull them out. I will turn the camera back on. That way you can see me brush this on there. And then they'll cool. Alright, we'll be back. 13 minutes and I've pulled these out, turned my oven off. And now all you want to do is brush this on there. Now you can also add some Parmesan cheese if you have it. If you don't, feel free to grate some. If if you've got it in a block and you just don't have it in the dehydrated, powdered, dehydrate it and then powder it. And then all we're going to do is let these set and cool off. Because you never eat bread while it's hot. You need to let it set. It is hard to do, but trust me, it is worth it. Okay, so you got to let your bread cool off before you dig in. Don't eat it hot. Like I said, I know it's hard to do. Your house is going to smell wonderful. And you're really going to be tempted to dig in, but be patient. Now your bread will soak up that butter, and then you'll have just beautiful stuff sitting on top. So I do have some left. So if you want to knock that down to, we'll say, 2 tablespoons instead of 3, or 1.5 tablespoons, because you see how much I have left. But you can just wrap this up and then use this for something else if you want to. Anyway, so I hope you make these. I hope you love them, if not like them. And if not, then hey, I hope you find the recipe that's right for you out there somewhere. And as always, you have yourself a very wonderful day.